This stop is Flushing Avenue and 61st Street. Next stop, Flushing Avenue and 58th Drive. This stop is Flushing Avenue and 58th Drive. Next stop, Flushing Avenue and 54th Street. This stop is Flushing Avenue and 54th Street. Next stop, Flushing Avenue and Metropolitan Avenue. Transfer available to Q54. This stop is Flushing Avenue and Metropolitan Avenue. Next stop, Flushing Avenue and Woodward Avenue. This stop is Flushing Avenue and Woodward Avenue. Next stop, Flushing Avenue and Onderdonk Avenue. This stop is Flushing Avenue and Onderdonk Avenue. Next stop, Flushing Avenue and Johnson Avenue. This stop is Flushing Avenue and Johnson Avenue. Next stop, Flushing Avenue and Harrison Place. Transfer available to the L train. This stop is Flushing Avenue and Harrison Place. Next stop, Flushing Avenue and Thames Street. This stop is Flushing Avenue and Thames Street. Next stop, Flushing Avenue and Knickerbocker Avenue. This stop is Flushing Avenue and Knickerbocker Avenue. Next stop, Flushing Avenue and Morgan Avenue. Transfer available to B60. This stop is Flushing Avenue and Morgan Avenue. Next stop, Flushing Avenue and Evergreen Avenue. This stop is Flushing Avenue and Evergreen Avenue. Next stop, Flushing Avenue and Bushwick Avenue. This stop is Flushing Avenue and Bushwick Avenue. Next stop, Flushing Avenue and Humboldt Street. Transfers available to the J, M and Z trains, B46 and B43. This stop is Flushing Avenue and Humboldt Street. Next stop, Flushing Avenue and Thornton Street. This stop is Flushing Avenue and Thornton Street. Next stop, Flushing Avenue and Harrison Avenue. This stop is Flushing Avenue and Harrison Avenue. Next stop, Flushing Avenue and Jerry Street. Transfer available to the G train. This stop is Flushing Avenue and Jerry Street. Next stop, Flushing Avenue and Lee Avenue. Transfers available to B44 and B44 SBS. This stop is Flushing Avenue and Lee Avenue. Next stop, Flushing Avenue and Bedford Avenue. Transfer available to B44 SBS. This stop is Flushing Avenue and Bedford Avenue. Next stop, Flushing Avenue and Franklin Avenue. Transfer available to B48. This stop is Flushing Avenue and Franklin Avenue. Next stop, Flushing Avenue and Kent Avenue. This stop is Flushing Avenue and Kent Avenue. Next stop, Flushing Avenue and Washington Avenue. This stop is Flushing Avenue and Washington Avenue. Next stop, Flushing Avenue and Vanderbilt Avenue. Transfer available to B69. This stop is Flushing Avenue and Vanderbilt Avenue. Next stop, Flushing Avenue and Cumberland Street. This stop is Flushing Avenue and Cumberland Street. Next stop, Flushing Avenue and North Portland Avenue. This stop is Flushing Avenue and North Portland Avenue. Next stop, Sands Street and Navy Street. Transfers available to B67 and B69. This stop is Sands Street and Navy Street. Next stop, Gold Street and Sands Street. This stop is Gold Street and Sands Street. Next stop, Gold Street and Tillery Street. This stop is Gold Street and Tillery Street. Next stop, J Street and Tillery Street. Transfers available to B54 and B26. This stop is J Street and Tillery Street. Next stop, J Street and Willoughby Street. Transfers available to the 2, 3, 4, 5, A, C, F, G and R trains, B25, B26, B52, B38, B103 Limited and B61. This stop is J Street and Willoughby Street. Next stop, J Street and Fulton Street. This stop is J Street and Fulton Street. Next stop, Smith Street and Livingston Street. Transfer available to B103 Limited. This stop is Smith Street and Livingston Street. Next stop, Court Street and Schermerhorn Street. This stop is Court Street and Schermerhorn Street. Next stop, Court Street and Atlantic Avenue. Transfers available to B61 and B63. This stop is Court Street and Atlantic Avenue. Next stop, Court Street and Amadou Street. This stop is Court Street and Amadou Street. Next stop, Court Street and Warren Street. This stop is Court Street and Warren Street. Next stop, Court Street and Kane Street. This stop is Court Street and Kane Street. Next stop, Court Street and Sackett Street. This stop is Court Street and Sackett Street. Next stop, Court Street and President Street. This stop is Court Street and President Street. Next stop, Court Street and First Place. This stop is Court Street and First Place. Next stop, Court Street and 3rd Place. This stop is Court Street and 3rd Place. Next stop, Court Street and Nelson Street. This stop is Court Street and Nelson Street. Next stop, Court Street and West 9th Street. Transfer available to B61. This stop is Court Street and West 9th Street. Next stop, Court Street and Hamilton Avenue. This stop is Court Street and Hamilton Avenue. Next stop, Court Street and Lorraine Street. This stop is Court Street and Lorraine Street. Next stop, Lorraine Street and Clinton Street. This stop is Lorraine Street and Clinton Street. Next stop, Lorraine Street and Henry Street. This stop is Lorraine Street and Henry Street. Next stop, Lorraine Street and Hicks Street. This stop is Lorraine Street and Hicks Street. Next stop, Lorraine Street and Columbia Street. This stop is Lorraine Street and Columbia Street. Next stop, Lorraine Street and Otsego Street. This stop is Lorraine Street and Otsego Street. Next stop, Dwight Street and Dyckman Street. This stop is Dwight Street and Dyckman Street. Next stop, Dwight Street and Van Dyke Street. This stop is Dwight Street and Van Dyke Street. Next stop, Beard Street and Otsego Street. This stop is Beard Street and Otsego Street. This is B57 to Red Hook IKEA Terminal.